If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
It's very easy to meet people that say they're successful. It's very easy to meet people that say they're purpose-driven. But man, is it hard to meet people, I think, anywhere that are truly purpose-driven entrepreneurs that truly want to make an impact, right? And actually back up their words with action.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. All the way from Brazil is where Rob Matzkin is joining me today. Rob, you do so many interesting things. I should just put it that way. Things that I love. I was saying before we jumped on, I'm a big fan of Ikigai. That is why I've left the world of working for other people, except for my role at the university. And now I'm full-time podcasting and podcast production and just really love it. I think it's important when you find those points of what you're really good at, what you're really passionate about, and where you can earn a living. And that is something that you do very well. You also help purpose-driven entrepreneurs come together in community and success. You're in a group that I had never heard of that I love, post-exit founders. We hear about all the groups that are helping entrepreneurs get to that point, but you don't hear a lot about what happens after. And then, of course, one of my favorite parts of your work is Singularity Ventures, which in the AI world, we talk about the singularity. And so I just can't think of a more appropriate name for that. So first and foremost, thank you for joining me on Your Brand Amplified.
Oh, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it. And by the way, with Ikigai, one thing to add, it's what the world needs.
Yes, that's true.
And you podcasting, clearly we need it. So thank you for taking the leap and making a difference for the rest of us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I get to learn as much as everybody who's listening from guests like yourself. So it's honestly, it's the biggest joy, besides my daughter, who is, in the other room waiting for me to get done with my work day. So, Rob, talk to us about where you started. Did you always know that these were areas that you were interested in? Technology, startups, entrepreneurship?
Well, entrepreneurship, yeah, it's actually kind of how I communicated with my father growing up. He ran our family business, so we were talking business at the dinner table every night. So I like to say I have an MBA, both from my father and from a dual MBA from my father and the School of Hard Knocks. But I'm dyslexic, right? So I didn't read till I was 10 years old. So for me, I've always seen the world differently. I've always seen opportunities. And I don't know if I've ever really seen myself working for anybody else. So it was always a path of entrepreneurship and just always this thing that naturally occurred for me.
Wow. I do think that people who have some kind of divergency, often the only thing that we can do or that we feel really comfortable doing is becoming an entrepreneur, working for ourselves and being able to have all of our ideas. Some of them don't fully form, but we try our hardest.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, the ones that see I mean, not to quote an Apple commercial, but the ones that see the world differently, right? I mean, if you see the world linearly, you're going to do what's done before you. If you see the world differently and you see all I see is what's broken, which
Mm.
isn't necessarily pleasant to be around hearing me bitch sometimes, more complain sometimes, but no. So it's like, and instead of just complaining about it, let's go out and solve it. Let's make a better place to be in.
So, in your dual MBA experience of the School of Hard Knocks and learning at the dinner table, did you then move into the family business as one of your first ventures or adventures?
No,
Oh,
one of the things that I actually learned from school, which wasn't much, was that a professor that specialized in family business. And he's like, go learn business from somewhere else and go learn your own mistakes and don't learn your family's mistakes. So for 5 years, I was off on my own, training myself my own way, started 3 different companies, worked for some competitors or people in the industry that we were in, and went back into my family business. And it was absolutely the worst year of my life. By all metrics, I was a functioning alcoholic, drinking myself to, or crying myself in my bottle every night with my friends. But it just wasn't great, right? My uncle, I have no problem saying he isn't a very stable individual, and it wasn't very fun. So, but it was the
wow.
best thing that ever happened because I knew I couldn't be there, and I knew I gave it everything, and all these other opportunities came from that. And I think one of the hardest things when you have that opportunity is regret of like, maybe I coulda, woulda, shoulda, and I never have that for a heartbeat. And, everybody thinks that, oh, you had it so easy going in your family business. Somebody who runs their family business and runs it well and transitioned, especially today, give them some respect because it is probably the hardest thing anybody's ever done. It is that the dynamics are insane.
I can't even imagine, but I can think through people expecting you to see things the same way. If
Oh,
you,
yeah. I mean, sorry, I cut you off.
no, go for it.
No, it's beyond that. It's like, yeah, you need to do things the way they've always been done and trying to break that frame. That's one thing. But you got to remember, they still see you as a 12-year-old. They still see you as that kid who screwed up in high school, right? So, and your whole history is right there. So, and that's for anybody because that's how you're framed. That's how, if you're in a family members, that's what's ingrained in them. It's not who's in front of them learning and growing that day. It's that thing that happened between you two at some point at some level, right? Or the 3-year-old hiding behind the couch when it comes to my uncle. Like, who knows, right? So my uncle was always the bully growing up. So who knows?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So as always, it's fine.
Was there any discomfort, obviously, on the part of like, did you feel like you had to please your father by going to the family business? And was that part okay? Going back to like, I've had the success, I've had my own businesses, I know what to do, and that's I'm going to piece out of this because there's a better path for me.
Oh, no. That's a story I won't tell, but let's just say it was not a thought out plan. It was a very emotional day and decision.
Oh.
We don't need to go into that.
But sometimes that's the best way to leave, no matter honestly what kind of business it is. I've been in companies where I was aqua hired in with my team, brought clients, the whole thing, quickly figured out, wow, this isn't the right fit, and just said, I'm leaving without that plan. And it's a little different scenario, of course, because you're talking about family here. But sometimes when you have that moment, you just have to leave, and then you figure it out along the way and figure out what you want to do next.
Yeah, and I think that's what, at Bond Summit, which is one of the things we do, I run a business summit for purpose-driven entrepreneurs. And, the modus that we came up with years ago was trust yourself, trust the path you're on, trust that the universe has your back, and trust the people around you, right? And really just trust. And, when I look back on it, like, I just had to trust myself. Right. I had to trust the path I was on. It was a crazy path. I didn't see what was at the other end of that. Right. I trusted the universe. And in reality, I actually trusted the people around me, even though I was a very aggressive 27-year-old New Yorker who did trust many people. But I think when, life gives you lemons, like, okay, let's squeeze lemonade. But It doesn't necessarily mean, you have to squeeze it that day. Just keep one step in for the other. You take a leap like you did, and you have enough data to say, no, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going all in on, and you're trusting, right? And just keep doing that, even when it's not great.
What was the next business that you embarked upon?
Well, it took me about 6 months. That happened in May, and then I had an entrepreneurial seizure after talking to a family friend, and he goes, what business models do you like, and what industries do you like? And I go, well, I really like to drink. I was a functioning alcoholic for my whole 26th year of my life. It was also, I was a New Yorker, and I was 26. So it was like, you know, so, and as soon as that, anyway, and I go, well, I really like the business model of Visa MasterCard. They get like 1% of the world. And then I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I don't know much about fintech. And I was like, I really like Seamless Web, which is Grubhub or TaskRabbit or Instacart of yesteryear, or really Uber Eats of yesteryear of 2010. And I'm like, they get 10, 20% of every food order. That's cool. And then I was like, well, I like to drink. So I'm like, booze delivered. Let's do that in 30 minutes. So I invented alcohol delivery in the United States. And then in 3 years, we were able to build that and be acquired. So that was an interesting roller coaster of a journey. And in reality, we're a marketing and technology company dealing with a lot of customer service and logistics. And it seemed really sexy, and it was just really brutal. And last mile delivery, especially back then, was even more brutal than it is today.
Just thinking about this state to state rules and regulations around alcohol, drinking ages, what cities or counties are dry versus.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, I didn't have to figure out how to scale it nationwide. We were very hyper-focused on cities and dense urban environments. There was 35 states that we were able to operate in that weren't state-owned, and most of those dry counties are state-owned liquor stores, so we wouldn't even bother touching them.
Yeah.
But it was definitely interesting. The funniest moment I had was a former employee was going to go work for the FBI, and two agents sat down because they do in-person interviews, and they wanted to just make sure this individual was above board. And I sit down with them. It's a very pleasant conversation. They're like, oh, booze carriage. We investigated you 2 years ago. I go, excuse me? They go, yeah, we investigated you. I'm like, why? They're like, well, we just wanted to make sure you're above board. And I'm like, okay, so what happened? I never heard anything. Like, oh, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, oh,
you never heard anything.
I'm like, but I was just like, what? But that was the talk about following a path or trusting was I had this entrepreneurship seizure in December of, I guess, 2010. And basically I was like, okay, booze delivered. How do I do this? Everybody's like, oh, you need a warehouse. You need to do it this way, that way. I was so focused on figuring out how do I get insurance? And you can't get insurance unless you have a liquor license, and you can't get a liquor license unless you have a physical presence. And I went down this rabbit hole, and I figured out, okay, I'm never going to sell a bottle of alcohol in my life. I'm a marketing company. I'm a technology company. The liquor stores sell the alcohol. Okay, cool. We'll do that. Now, turns out, lo and behold, by going down that insurance path, the whole model appeared of actually, how do you actually do this legally? So it's just, you follow one rabbit hole in a weird direction, and it's really hard. And that's actually where the magic sauce is.
As a business owner myself, I can tell you that finding the right people to hire is absolutely brutal. You post a job, get flooded with hundreds of resumes, but somehow still can't find anyone with the actual skills you need. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/work. Here's what makes ZipRecruiter different. Their smart technology actually identifies the top talent for your specific roles super quickly. The moment you post your job, their matching system starts showing you qualified candidates immediately. Plus, you can reach out to your favorite candidates right away using their pre-written invite to apply messages. No more waiting around, hoping someone will notice your post. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/work. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/work. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Wow. And that was about 10 years ago that you exited that company.
Yeah. Oh,
and then
wow. Yeah. I
started.
got that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have your LinkedIn and all of your websites pulled up
Uh-huh.
on my other screen.
You see, you're better than me. You're better than me.
So, what did you decide to do next? Did you decide to stay in an alcohol adjacent industry? Did you decide to stick with the tech and the marketing side of things, or something completely different?
I decided to do nothing for about 6 months. The choice was, no, I'm not doing anything after this acquisition. And then at some point, a friend was like, why aren't you traveling? And I started traveling. And long story short, I ended up in Tel Aviv for the first time ever, being Jewish. And after 4 days, I was supposed to be there for 4 days. I go, I'm going to stay another week. And then I'm going to stay another week. And then along the way, met somebody who was grilling me about my work experience. And then after a trip to the northern part of the country, I get back and he's like, do you want a job? I'm like, no, I don't want to work for anybody. I'm like, maybe a co-founder. And then we reinvented a company called MyQuest. We're an ed tech education and technology platform that turned into an enterprise knowledge management system, which basically was using like ChatGPT 0.1 to do internal knowledge bases in 2018 of like our own proprietary knowledge base using AI to like query and give the right answers to, 10,000 plus person organizations. So I ended up doing that for 5 years and living abroad, and ended up moving back right before COVID, coincidentally, to New York City, which locked down.
Ooh, yeah.
And then I quickly moved to Miami Beach.
Okay. I was like, I went to New York City during that time. I was helping do COVID testing with a client that was doing culturally competent COVID testing in communities. So New York was a very interesting time, always, but specifically at that time.
Yeah. I was only there from March till September.
Yeah.
But,
so then, is it at that point that you decided to start having your own consulting business?
Yeah, I mean, so I was doing consulting, I think, at some point since like 2019. I think at some point probably 2019, one of my friends was like, can you help me with my business? And I go, sure. And she's like, you have a knack for this. I go, really? And then I'm like, you want my opinions? Oh, okay. And then and I was always kind of doing that as kind of the side thing while I was still running MyQuest and taking a few clients here and there and helping some friends out. And then when I moved on from MyQuest, I was like, maybe I'm just going to do this full time. And that's kind of what I've been doing, and quite a few other things as well. But I was like, every startup founder, I think, needs kind of like whether there's multiple ways I frame myself, which isn't the best. I know we're a marketing podcast, which isn't always the best thing from a marketing and branding perspective. But there's just so many challenges at startup space, right? It's everything from everybody hires me because they want help fundraising. Okay, I just hired a client. They're like, we're struggling with fundraising and it's impossible. I go, okay, we're going to make it inevitable, but you know how successful you are. You know how successful you're going to be, but nobody else sees it. Okay, let's make sure everybody else sees it. Okay, we'll redo your decks and we'll redo your financials and we'll redo your stories and we'll help you pitching, but so what? That's not what's going to make the difference. What's going to make the difference is you actually succeeding in business. So let's go to work on that. And then this same client is a very gruff New Yorker. And he goes, Rob, this was like, I feel better than I do after my therapist. I actually could talk openly about all the challenges I had and everything else. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of a fractional CXO, and I could put on whatever hat you need to put on, and you could actually go toe to toe with me. So somebody who gets your business as much as you do and really understands business as much as you do to really work on it together, right? Which ultimately leads to fundraising success. So you hire me for one thing and we end up doing everything else. So I still don't know how to brand that. So any advice to anybody out there who wants to redo my branding just because, feel free to have an entrepreneurial seizure for me and, do that. But no, all kidding aside. So I just have a love for it. Like I'm able to reinvent. Somebody tells me about their business and I get it instantly. And I'm like, oh, you're like this. And it just clicks. And I just really love working with people and doing all that.
Well, clearly you've done it really well because you've worked and helped start 16 plus companies.
Yeah. I mean, well, that has nothing to do with the consulting. That's just stuff I've done on my own, I guess.
Oh my God. Okay.
So I've worked with close to 100 different clients at this point. on my own. But no, the organizations, that's me, myself, and I, and some amazing business partners along the way that we've done some incredible stuff together.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And is that what led into your summits?
So the medium story of my summits was I moved to Miami a year after I got there. I just got out of a relationship, and I was like, okay, COVID's over in Miami. I just moved into a new place. It was Miami. We never had COVID. Didn't exist. Never happened. Right. Exact opposite of New York and Cali. But anyway, all politics aside. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to invite everybody over for Shabbat dinner, and we're going to do this. And all 7 people I knew in Miami, after being there a year, came over. And I was like, this is great. Everybody loved that I know how to cook. And I cooked for everybody at my 1-bedroom apartment. And then I did it again, and all 7 people came again. And then I did it another week, and 14 people came, and then 20 people came, and then 30 people came, and then 50, and then sometimes it was 60. And I've done that about 90 different times. And at one point I had a rule that you couldn't come twice. So there's 2 of my best friends who came every time. But besides that, it was my way of saying 2 things. 1, I want to meet more people. And 2, if you can't come more than once, then you can't be insulted that I didn't invite you again. So it was just a very simple way, because everybody always posts, and I didn't want to offend anybody. And then everybody loved the community I was building, loved me as a connector. I didn't realize my superpower was a connector. So a bunch of people said that you should do this at a different level and start connecting and building summits. And, they're like, the most amazing network and things of that nature. Now, that was one thing floating in the back of my mind. And then the other thing was, quite selfishly, especially being in Miami, it's very easy to meet people that say they're successful. It's very easy to meet people that say they're purpose-driven. But man, is it hard to meet people, I think, anywhere that are truly purpose-driven entrepreneurs that truly want to make an impact, right? And actually back up their words with action, right? So one of the reasons what I said before is, it was really interesting. Everybody says I have this really amazing community, which I guess I do. But the amount of people that backed up what they said they would do, or what their intentions were of how much they liked me or liked what I did, and actually supported me, was very few. Now, there's definitely some really great friends that did. So I started Bond Summit from a perspective of, selfishly, I want to be around just more amazing people, amazing entrepreneurs that really want to go out and do stuff. So that's why we created Bond Summit, and it's just an amazing journey.
How do you vet people to make sure they truly are purpose-driven?
I think you're pretty good at this too, but when you really actually speak to somebody and you ask them a few questions after a few minutes, you kind of just get a sense of them. And and sometimes, sometimes somebody's really good at faking it. But when you're in the room with us, I'll know pretty quick, and it'll be pretty evident pretty quick. And luckily we haven't had a situation where somebody's fooled us. But even so, when you get in our room, we'll know if you're full of it or not, because we're going to, have exercises that are going to squeak that out, and it's going to be apparent that you're very uncomfortable. No, the other thing is, me and my business partner, Joe Beneshu, were very polar opposite. It was very interesting. We took about a 4-month hiatus because we had a 6-month break between summits, and we both went off and did our own things. And we came back, and we just had a reconnect call about 2 weeks ago. And we both started downloading. We had these same realizations, but she comes from the whole world of personal growth and development, which I'm steeped in, but she's like a level 10. I'm like a level 3. And, or she's a 12. I'm a whatever. Anyway, she's just incredible, and she's very spiritual and very purpose-driven, that whole world. So she comes at it from this angle, and I come at it from this business sense, and we're like, oh, we're saying the same thing. This is amazing. And look how in sync we are. But the other, so there's that whole aspect of it. But between those two, looking at people completely differently, if both of us don't pick up on it, and we usually will, one of us will. And yeah, so we're pretty good at that. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, no, I think that's really an important distinction between other organizations that say they're purpose-driven entrepreneur groups and yours. I am in a couple of groups that may or may not be in for much longer, but that where I've met really great people and they are purpose driven, but where the founders have clashed. And so you don't know if it's ego or if they have different purposes or what the things are. So the fact that you can come and work with somebody who is coming at it from a different perspective, but you come to the same conclusions, I think says a lot about your partnership, the way that you value that relationship with each other, and then the intentionality that then goes into the kinds of events and community that you're crafting.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think the events business is, in some ways, the hardest business I've ever had to do, because it's the most logical, illogical. When you start housing people or putting people up and dealing with the hotel industry, it's a whole different beast that's completely illogical to me, and it's very difficult. And then there's everything else of the whole production side of things too. So it's a very simple yet hard business that when you're on for 48 to 72 hours, period. So it's something, but it's one of the most rewarding businesses I've ever had the privilege of doing.
Wow. Now let's move on, because I do want to get to one of the topics that we discussed before we push record. And that is, you talked a little bit about how you help businesses.
Yeah.
But one thing that we didn't get to is productivity. And we're seeing there's books about working 4 days a week, the 4-hour work week, all these different productivity hacks and people in different countries who are saying this works or that doesn't work. And in this day and age, with all of these tools that we have access to, all of this technology, your take, I think, is a little bit different, but I think it's something that everybody needs to wake up to. So you share that with us?
Yeah, specifically what we're speaking about on AI and
AI and productivity and
Yeah, for sure. So, I'll just preface it with say this, right? I think there's two camps that we only hear from. And there's a camp that everybody's losing their job and AI is going to take over the world and the singularity is coming and we're all screwed.
Yeah.
Right? And we're one step away from Terminator. And then the other camp, which is getting louder, is especially with ChatGPT 5, which I don't love, is, that AI is not going to be all that. And it's the two extremes, and I don't know who's right. I'm not smart enough to know who's right, but I'll say this. I think there's definitely a middle ground. And one of the things that I've realized is it doesn't really matter which camp is right now. What matters is, the only thing that we know right now is things are uncertain, and let's get used to uncertainty and learn how to thrive in uncertainty. And then the second thing really is we're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. I think that's a statement that everybody's pretty confident on right now. And every prior industrial revolution has produced 25 years of huge economic growth. Now, the fear mongers will say, well, that growth is just going to go to FANG or whatever FANG is called these days. I forget the acronym now with NVIDIA and everything else. But, it's just going to go to the elite and the biggest companies. But I think in getting to your real question is, I think there's a whole different way of being an employee, leading a company and getting the most out of everybody and everybody succeeding, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody, and I don't say everybody, and everybody could be their own individual, but I think at a broad stroke, what is going to happen with people's roles is we're going to need to be accountable for the actions that we need to produce, right? For actually, it used to be you show up to work and everything's from an assembly line, right? Everything's from the Model T assembly line. This is how we do work. This is how we manage, even Six Sigma and everything else, which, by the way, turns out isn't so great, and G doesn't really exist anymore. And we're using these huge management practices that aren't really that great or have proven out to not be all that. And, a lot of us here are entrepreneurs. A lot of us here aren't Fortune 500 or aren't Fortune 200 or 2000. And remember, a corporation is responsible for the shareholders to endless growth, but that's not necessarily, if you run your own company, you don't need endless growth for growth's sake necessarily. You need profitability, cash flow, all these other things. Anyway, getting to my point is that if all of a sudden you're responsible for a KPI, you're responsible for moving you're responsible for a result. What result are you going to be responsible for, and how are you going to produce that? So as a leader, instead of saying, I'm going to pay you to work a certain amount of hours, I'm going to pay you to drive this result. Here's a KPI. Now I could check in with you daily, I could check in with you hourly, I could check in with you weekly to make sure you're producing this result. But ultimately, that's what you need to be accountable for. And I think the best managers of the last 20 years have been able to do that. Like, let's say you're a GC and you're like, okay, you're a carpenter. I need this deck done. You could take 2 hours, you could take 20. I don't care. Just get it done right. And let me check it off and we're good. I'm going to pay you to do the deck, right? I don't care how long it takes you. You just need to do it and do it well. And I think that's going to be really with AI, with everybody, because I'm sure you know a ton of people working in corporate America today that they're like, they go to me, they're like, Rob, oh my God, I get my job done in an hour and they pay me for 9. I'm like, that's great. You're going to get caught and you're screwed, but keep doing that. But then again, can I blame them? Because if they tell their boss is going to be like, oh my God, that's great. I'm going to give you 8 more hours of work a day. Or I'm just going to fire you and replace you and just use use whatever you're doing to replace you. So, which doesn't work, but we want to incentivize people to get more done. So finding the right KPIs, the right metrics, and it's really hard to manage that. It's really hard to lead that. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot more thought and effort versus saying, hey, come and punch clock.
If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Well, and I think because people are trying, or leaders, managers are trying to help people work through what a balance looks like, or if you have kids, giving a little leeway for you to leave early if you need to, or things like that. On one hand, they'll say, doesn't matter how many hours you work as long as you get this work done, because this is something I've seen more recently in the workforce. But then on the other hand, oh, we know you're not giving us 40 hours a week. And you can't have it both ways.
You can't. Right? But it's a complete deletion of, there is no, oh, we want to help you with work-life balance. It's, no, let's find an appropriate, let's figure out what you're capable of producing, right? And let's put you on salary and let's go have you produce that. Now, some weeks might be really violent and it might be not so great. And other weeks might be really cozy, right? And it's, everybody's becomes in some ways like, I'm an entrepreneur. The last 3 weeks, they were 60, 70 hour a week work weeks because I onboarded a few clients. I did well and I really had to push it. And then, next week I'm going to tone down and I blocked off a lot of things and I stopped doing a lot of stuff and it's something else, right? But you get to manage your own time and find your own balance. But a lot of times, and I'm not a parent, I don't have a family to manage, but so I have a little bit more leeway there. But there's natural flows of it. There's natural ebbs and flows, right? And productivity to me means a few different things, but sometimes it's just focusing and getting everything done. And sometimes, I think, by the way, I'll just share one productivity hack is trying to power through and say I'm going to like study and cram and like with the habit, like we used to take a test in college and you're like, I'm going to like have this mindset. I'm going to take Adderalls. I'm going to pull all letters and whatever that might be. And it's like, it doesn't work. And you just like, I know in the morning for me, I have 4 hours to get paperwork done. And some days I could do 2.5 hours with a little break. And then some days I could do all 4 hours. But if I can't get it done then, I'm just not going to get it done later in the day because my mind isn't able to do that type of work at 4 p.m. after, 3, 5, 6 hours of calls. It just doesn't happen. And I try and power through and I'm just miserable and I'm just causing anxiety and I'm not very productive. And then I'm just wasting my time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not to go on to tangents of productivity hacks, but one that I really like is writing down every little thing, big, small, business related, personal that you need to do, picking the top 3 to 4 things that you have to get done in the next 24 hours. And then that helps me really, really prioritize to what's urgent, important for me and my life and my business versus what other people's expectations are.
Yes. And doing that, especially when you're stressed, doing that at night and then picking that up in the morning and then scheduling everything to the 15-minute of what you're going to get done that day and keeping that schedule like it's the most important meeting is the next iteration of that if you're really busy, right? And then what's cool about both those things is when you write all that down, you put it away and you don't have to think about it for the rest of the night. And then when you pick it up and then you write everything down and schedule it, you're like, well, this is the stuff that I'm not going to get to. And that's just the way it is. And if you want to change it, we'll change the schedule. And it's just not happening.
Yeah. Well, since we started on the little AI road, let's get into that with your other company, Singularity Ventures, and what you're trying to accomplish there.
Yeah. So I'm raising a VC fund, right? We're not deploying it. It's a $50 million fund. We were somewhere around 40% committed. And what we're really doing there is what's the next generation of government technology, cyber, AI, quantum, and what is the government going to need to procure over the next 18 to 48 months to really have to thrive. And it's just a really rapidly growing space that's really interesting right now.
It is. The sun has decided to completely come in this window.
I see that. It's great.
As for anybody who's watching, you'll see me slowly start disappearing or quickly disappearing, I guess. But yeah, and that is really important. And those are major questions for this day and age of, particularly when we think about defense and we think about climate, we think about issues and which countries have which technologies to deploy and what can we do. It'll be amusing for anybody who decides to watch this episode instead of listen to it. We're mostly audio, but this would be a special little surprise treat.
You still look great. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. So this is a major issue. I definitely have some people I'd love to connect you with who have worked in that area a lot and who I'm advising on some AI projects right now.
Yeah, well, let's fit them. Yeah.
Yeah, but so you're right now raising money. You also are launching a $100 million VC fund for emerging technologies as part of that.
Yeah, it's a $50 million fund. Yeah,
$50 million. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And does that fit into some of the other work that you're doing? Is it something that you're just really passionate about?
Well, it came out, me and my friend, somehow I ended up with all these great government connections. And we were doing some consulting and we realized that we were getting very good at getting some very nice companies their first government contracts. And we go, we probably should have equity. We should have had equity in these companies before we did that. And so, our thesis is actually really simple and I don't have to be smart to execute on it. It's who can we help get them that government contract and how do we know that they're going to get it? And that's what we're really basing our inflection point on. So it's like, we feel confident they're going to get this government contract. Okay, cool. We'll invest. We're not smart enough to say you're the next big AI, LLM, this or that, or the next best SaaS company. And chances are my network's good, but I'm not going to find out about that emerging company that's going to be all that A16Z, you already heard about it 3 months ago and either passed or invested in them already before I hear about them. But GovTech, I hear about early. I can really assess because the inflection point is very binary. It's either you're going to get that contract or you're not. And 1/3 of them are going to get their third government contract for $300 million and they're automatically a unicorn or they're not. So it's a little bit, the horizons and the exits are a little longer, so it's just a little more problematic. But the amount that I have to be a savant is much more at my IQ level. So
the self-deprecation is real, but completely unfounded. You put together so many different things. There's so many companies, obviously, that we haven't even talked about. What continues to inspire you to keep on pushing, to keep on ideating, iterating, and bringing new visions to our world?
I think what fulfills me is making a huge impact for others. And my gift is through my network and through entrepreneurship, right? So am I going to be able to change the world in certain ways and through protesting or government? Maybe, probably not. But can I change the world through innovation and making a difference and seeing some amazing ideas make a huge impact on our world? That's pretty inspiring to me. And it's natural and it's fun and it's kind of easy for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think that's why I still do what I do. Yeah.
Long way away from the family business days.
Yeah. And, it's the biggest blessing I could ever have is taking those golden handcuffs off.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be purpose driven if I was still there. I'd still be a very aggressive bro New Yorker. So
Rob, you're calling in from Brazil. Are you also living a little bit of that digital nomad life?
People think I do. I guess this summer I am. So I'm an avid kite surfer. So what makes me happy is being able to go kite for an hour a day. So in Miami, in November through June, I'm able to go kite after work every day, which just makes me happy and keeps me in shape. So for the last 2 months, I was like, I'll go to Brazil and I'll kite every day. And I can, and it is, and I do, and it's amazing. But no, I don't like, it's interesting, right? Digital nomad to me means every 2 weeks you're on the go. To me, I like go finding a place, calling it home for a month or two and having my routine, but just doing it someplace amazing where there's wind. Must have wind.
There's wind. All right.
Yeah.
Last piece of advice you'd give to the audience today?
I'll just double down on trust yourself, trust the path you're on, trust that the universe has your back, and trust some others. The right people, but trust others.
Wow. I usually then ask for a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto, but I don't know if you have one that's better than that.
I'll give you one. I don't know if it's better, but the definition of wisdom that changed my life was if you could learn from others' mistakes as if they are your own, you will have an infinite amount of wisdom. So if my advisory board that I listen to their mistakes as my own, and each 10 of them has 30 years of experience, I now have 300 years of wisdom behind me. So wisdom to me is not what I've acquired, but if I could truly listen and be coachable and absorbs other people's wisdom as my own, that's the ultimate hack.
That is the ultimate hack. And actually, that's one of my favorite things about podcasting is all of the wisdom I get to bring in from experts such as yourself. So, Rob, thank you so much for still hanging in there, not canceling, because I know it's a Friday night as we're recording this where you are. But I really appreciate your time and intention today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you for holding such an amazing space for everybody.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it. I'll be back again very shortly with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey. Of course, we will have Rob's various endeavors that you can take part in or perhaps apply to take part in the show notes. So you can contact him and learn more about some of the many paths that he is doing and the purpose-driven world that he's living in. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbandamplified.com.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Lowe's knows how to get you ready for holiday hosting with up to 35% off select home decor. And get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, members get free delivery, haul away, basic installation, parts, and a 2-year Lowe's protection plan when you spend $2,500 or more on select LG major appliances. Valid through 10/1. Member offer excludes Massachusetts, Maryland, Wisconsin, New Jersey, and Florida. Installed by independent contractors. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for more details.